you. And thank you, Pat, for rendering those incredibly intriguing pieces. I registered a sense of suspense, really, in both. That was just really cool. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? The first poem I'm going to read there's a common exercise in creative writing classrooms where we ask students to write a poem that represents your origin story or your creation myth. It's an assignment that was given to me as a poetry student and one that I give to my students as well. And this is my creation myth. It's called The Punishments Must Be a School. I was the child born hybrid from the fissure, bursting from the black rock of the earth in a plume of white ash, rendered from magnets, minerals, and medicinal plants. If you bit me hard enough to break skin, I would poison you. The other children poked me with willow branches, but they could not deliver the hot copper from my veins. I slept under snow, hoping my body would freeze and crack, that my soul would steam upwards. I only melted a circle around me by morning. I could never remember my lessons, so when the teacher chose me, I would recite the old story from memory. Its diction had nursed me at my bedside. Mother taught me how grandfather stripped his children's backs with a switch, how he held them underwater. Mother taught me the old story so that its nutrients might fortify my blood. At the head of the class, I tilted my neck and spread my arms to speak it. But I couldn't predict how the words would turn fragile and molt in fluorescent classroom light. How the other children would corner me later and call me the beast who bathes in the night. In honor of the cabaret vibe, the next couple of poems I'm going to read are poems from my forthcoming collection that feature like theatricality or aesthetics in some fashion. They're some of my most fun poems, which is not saying a lot. They're not very fun, folks, but they sort of nod to art and aesthetics. The Gloomy Festival of Punishment. Floodlit, the actors move their arms. Their mouths close and reopen. The baritone safely strokes the brocade of his costume. When we stand at the intermission, our seats clack inward. The lobby shimmers, restored to the splendors of the railroad age. The tuxedos bandy at the concession, wine, tea, wine. The early meal shifts in our stomachs, and nobody knows how much money we make. The women move their arms, and their mouths close and reopen as they lotion their elbows with pomegranate extract. Their necks, accoutered in open oyster shells, grimly signify viscera. Ushers hawk cheeses and cured meats, dotted with fat. The children are strict, choosing crudité over cream puffs, licking bits of paper napkin from wet ribs of celery. Someone stabs a pickpocket in the hand with a broken champagne flute. When the chimes direct us back into the theater, we unfold our seats in a practiced gesture. Our hands graze the green velour. We peer at the proscenium through the murky light, muttering, "Oh," and "Ah," and impatiently rustling. At the performance's conclusion, we dutifully stand. To produce the sound of applause, we criticize our wrists into welts with the wooden blades of our fans. It must look accidental when we cut our fingertips along the glistening edges of our programs. This is called Aesthete's Manifesto. We will wear cloaks of silk and bracelets of agates. We'll hang tapestries over the casement windows. In lamplight, their gold threads will overshine the dull heat of the sun. We will not remember our old lives, how we circled bins of produce, dialed disconnected numbers, and tried not to hope for personal mail. How we scowled back at the sidewalk that tripped us to shift the burden of shame. In a white room at the world's edge, untouched by persecution, we will watch as the paintings age, as dust settles into the cracks of their oil. We'll perfume our wrists with myrrh and practice complex elocution. Our organs will turn to paper, ensuring they never spoil. This will be our new Constitution. Aftershave. The hangman leaves work with hemp fibers clinging to his coat. The rope burn edged into his palm reopens at home as he lifts the whistling kettle from the stove. He can't shake the scent of aftershave. Of all the last gestures, that one haunts him the most. He wonders if the smell, so similar to his grandmother's chokecherry tincture, had transferred to his hands as they looped the noose around the inmate's throat. And this poem is called The Miser. I wrote it recently in a writing group, in a free writing session, and the prompt was a Lee Young Lee poem about gift giving. And so the prompt that everyone was given was, what's your relationship to gifts or gift giving or gift receiving? This will tell you a lot about my crooked mind. It's called The Miser. After so much violence, every gift was an organ donation. Each time I had to ask myself if I could function without such a crucial possession. My blood became sluggish with fear of how the loss would feel the moment I handed over the favor, the compliment, or the cup of sugar. Shaking, I'd spill the grains to the floor or garble the gesture in some other way. Saving the recipient from taking on this dead heart no preventative medicine could ever warm into natural throbbing. What is the lesson about surrender I was put here to learn?